Kenya celebrates 58th day of anniversaries and Independence Day anniversary today. The commemoration serves as an opportunity for Kenyans to reflect on their storied history and rich cultural heritage. Our East Africa correspondent Sarah Kimani has more.
This is where the celebrations has been taking place, the official commemoration. It has just wound up. President Kenyatta delivered his speech just about an hour ago from here, and he outlined the struggles of the forefathers to be able to get Kenya to this point and to get Kenya independence. Now, these gardens where we are standing, Uhuru Gardens, is where actually the flag of the British was brought down and the Kenyan flag was raised for the first time to commemorate or to begin independence, to begin a new Kenya as a republic.
It's interesting that President Kenyatta delivered that speech talking about and outlining the struggles of Kenya's forefathers to get that independence. But importantly, was there talk, and did he talk about the country's achievements since that day, since independence?
Yes, he did. And what he did is he almost did like a history of the country this far, starting with the struggle for independence, the struggle for multipartyism, and also the struggle after Kenya got multipartyism to have a new constitution, and even spoke about his own struggle to change the current constitution, and saying that even though that struggle, what was called the Building Bridges Initiative, was defeated in the courts of law here in Kenya, he says that is just a temporary setback, and he says it will be revisited by those who come after him. Indeed, he also spoke about his political truce with Raila Odinga, calling it a political truce that has been able to bring the country together, saying what is known here as the handshake was important for the country to begin a process of peace and reconciliation.
Well, for more on Kenya's anniversary, we're now joined via Zoom by Doctor Margaret Monyani, who's a lecturer of international relations at Wits University here in Johannesburg. Always good to talk to you. Good evening. Happy Independence Day.
Good evening, and thank you so much.
So,
thank you for having me.
So are Kenyans celebrating today? I suppose it's a significant day in the calendar, but in many ways it's a time to reflect what they're celebrating.
Okay, thank you so much. So first of all, let me wish fellow Kenyans a happy Jamhuri Day wherever they are, and the friends to Kenya. Yeah, indeed, this is a very historical day to Kenya as a state. So that's because that's when we became became a republic. But again, like you have mentioned, like what are we celebrating? We need to look back at where we have come from as a state. Because immediately after independence, what independence does, it just gives that that freedom to rule, or that certificate to rule, self-rule. But it doesn't guarantee the future. So it's up to the Kenyans or the Africans that took over. Just to give a general picture of the African countries, is that once we took over, it is the responsibility of the blacks to build their own future. But when you look at the country Kenya, there are a bit of regrets here and there. So like our first president started off on a good footing. He came in with the philosophy of Harambe, which means pulling together. And for him, he focused on 3 areas: disease, illiteracy, and poverty. And until his demise in 1978, there were a bit of strides that had been achieved. And the state, still at a formative stage, had made a little bit of progress. But now where things started go down the drain or just spiraling down is when now we had our second president, and we see the economic decline, that is the late Moi, economic decline, and the dictatorship that was there, the one-partisan politics, and it wasn't good for the country. It's until 1992 is when, since independence, we are having multi-party elections, and you know that. So far, up to now, if we compare ourselves with what has come to, if I may use that example of the Asian tigers, we were at the same level in the 1960s, but they're way far much ahead of us, which means there's something that went wrong somewhere. As of 2019, Singapore, which is one of the Asian tigers, it has a GDP of around $370 billion US dollars, and Kenya is at 95. So where did we go wrong? And when you look at these countries, it's all about the policies they undertook on export, import, trade, manufacturing, all that. But for us, we got divided and people started being greedy around power. Who takes over? Who gets what? It was now about the elites coming out with another structure, the black elites, to now, can I say, colonize their fellow blacks. So I would say that many of the Kenyans right now, I don't think they even understand why we should celebrate. You know, we needed to go back and say, see the far we have come. Look at the jobs we have right now. Look at the housing situation in the country. Because if I may give even the example of housing, 22% of Kenyans live in the cities, but 60% of those city residents live in the slums, something that is very appalling. And the need to have like 150,000 house units every year is not being met. In 2021, they can only meet 35,000. So there is this gap, and unfortunately, the gaps target the very common citizen, and that can be derailing for any economy.
It's interesting that President Kenyatta on Jamhuri Day, as it's described, spent a lot of time in his speech looking at the past and the history of the country. And then he started to talk about the present, and he's still holding on to this BBI. He said the time has come together to mend and crack, to mend the crack on the wall of our nation, necessitated the First Amendment to our Constitution. Although it encountered some legal obstacles, I can only say that BBI is just a dream deferred. So he's adamant that this must go through. How important is this piece of legislation to him, and does it mean unity if it does go through?
Yeah, so I know it was his project. It was the president's project, and it meant a lot for his legacy. And I can see the way he's reminiscing about the whole process. Let's just give it up to him. It was his project. But again, like I've maintained, I don't think BPI or constitutional amendment is what we needed at this point. Kenya, we just got the other constitution in 2010. We have hardly experienced it. We just rolled out the devolution government. We need to start strengthening institutions. If we need to forge ahead as a country as it is right now, we cannot underscore the role of ideas and the backing of strong institutions. What is happening in Kenya is that the institutions are very weak. We have very, just some existing institutions. And then we also have very good policies. We don't even need the BPI. The constitution is good enough as it is. We have very good policies, very good blueprints, like the Vision 2030. Where is it? His big four agenda. Where has it gone? Let him give us a stock take of that. He said he rolled out his big four agenda that is on housing, healthcare, food security, and manufacturing that will roll out between 2018 and 2022. I would have loved the president to give us a stock take of that. What has been achieved so far, instead of reminiscing of a BBI, which we Kenyans rejected outrightly. That is not necessary as it is now. Let's see what did his government do, and we should say, this is the far I have come, and then I'm handing over to the next government. Let them take over, but not telling us about some documents that did not go through.
I suppose his legacy will be an issue now. I mean, this is his last Jamhuri Day as president, isn't it? He said in his speech also that 1963, the Asian tigers such as South Korea were at the same level of development as Kenya. And in fact, Kenya helped South Korea with money, with their development plans as far back as then. But it's remarkable to see what's then happened to South Korea and what's happened to Kenya. He talks about Kenya not having an imagination of what the future should be and not planning for it. But he was president for a significant period of time.
Yes, yes. Now, that is where most Kenyans always find a problem, because what has been wrong with Kenya is actually our leadership. Our leadership is not as visionary, and I'm happy that our leaders, or I hope those who take over from him, can see this. And I know they know them. They have advisors. They have told them that these Asian tigers were at the same rate as us in 1960. So where did we go wrong? If we have to benchmark, we will see in terms of what policies did they undertake in terms of manufacturing. Because like I mentioned, the Vision 2030, which is a blueprint that was adopted by the by the Kibaki government. It was supposed to roll out, and the anticipation was that every year it has 3 pillars: economic, social, and political. Let me talk about the economic pillar. They say they will make sure that there is 10% of economic growth for the next 30 years. That hasn't happened. The highest economic growth we had was during Kibaki's era. So where is the problem? It is about our policies around import and exports. We have made that manufacturing in the country, the inputs are so expensive that it stifles the local manufacturers. We have, the government has made way for the cheap China counterfeit goods to thrive in the country, which stifles, which makes, gives stiff competition to local manufacturers. So our own local manufacturing plants have closed down, completely closed down. Why? Because of these loopholes around policy. So it's something that can be done. So the government needs to re-strategize. Like I've mentioned, we cannot underscore the role of ideas and the backing of strong institutions. If we do not have an idea, like he says, of where we are going, economically, where are we going, and what do we need to do? It's not just enough to know where you're going, but institutional backing is very important.
Are you optimistic about the future, though? Because, you know, when I think about some of the innovation that comes out of Kenya, East Africa, young people are creating incredible things. You gave us M-Pesa, for goodness sake. Do you know what I mean? So I just wonder if you are optimistic, despite some of the leadership challenges, that Kenya can, through its people, lift itself up, even despite their leaders.
Yes, and thank you for that observation. That is a very brilliant observation. I've always maintained, even when I'm here in South Africa, I speak highly of Kenyans. Kenyans are a very intelligent population. Not to say that other people are, but I'm just making an observation of our population I know. So Kenyans are very brilliant population, like you say. There have been very great innovations. Like recently, there was a group of Kenyans that had an innovation around COVID. I don't remember the specific details. And I remember the government did not give them a platform. So the issue is around environment for these Kenyans to thrive. And I remember these 2 or 3 gentlemen were called by the Rwandese government, and it picked up the idea and patented it. You can imagine. So other countries are copying from us, not once, not twice. Our own blueprints have been taken by other countries. In fact, I heard someone say somewhere that some countries, when they want to come up with any policy, they ask, has Kenya done anything on this? So they can just go and look at it and know what to say. So if the Kenyans were given a proper environment around policy, like I've mentioned, there are very great innovative ideas in the country, but they cannot thrive because of the stifling policies around it. That you, like I've had to start a small business, someone is asking a permit of 5,000 rand, and where do you get that kind of money? And you're starting a business. So the government needs to do better. If only they created a better environment, I'm telling you, Kenya will be far. It will be I don't know why, it will be the top country on the continent.
Let's talk a little bit about the international picture. A powerhouse in East Africa, and I suppose it's not unreasonable to expect Kenya to have led in terms of dealing with some of the issues in the region, but also on the continent. Do you think that when you look back in time that Kenya has more than contributed and done its fair share, or could have done more?
Yes, thank you for that question. Yes, Kenya has, in the East African region, it has really played a big, especially on the security front. Kenya has been a home for these refugees who come from these politically unstable countries, in the neighboring countries. So to that extent, you can see it has been involved intensively in the creation, up to the creation of the South Sudan country. It walked that journey with the South Sudanese. It has been involved in many reconciliation efforts. I'm just giving the security aspect. Yes, Kenya has done much, but I know we are limited by many other domestic issues. Like you can't be solving your neighbor's issues when at home you also have your own unemployment issues. You have all these manner of issues around you. So to a large extent, I would say commend the government that it has always worked to ensure that we move forward as a continent. Even when it was chair at the UN, we saw Kenya work hard to ensure that the security issues on the continent, development issues on the continent are resolved. So yes, not to the level we would expect it, and that is understandable because of, it all boils down to the economic might. You can't just be giving ideas. People will, at the end of the day, or states respect economic might. Yeah.
All right, a lot coming in the year ahead. There'll be elections. Do you think that there will be a new chapter beginning for Kenya, and that at the next Jamhuri Day, we might be having a different conversation, or might it be more of the same?
Yeah, so my anticipation is that we will get a visionary leader this time round, but I'm not sure that the issues we have right now can be resolved in the next 2 or 3 months for us, or not 3 months, in the next 1 year, because the next president comes in 9th of August, 2022. So the next Jamhuri Day will be 2 or 3 months later. I doubt there'll be so much change from what we see right now. But I want to believe from that point, we will be on the road to recovery. Recovery from political instability, weak governance that is bedeviling our country, corruption, the new leadership that comes to place. We want to see a leader who unifies the country. We want to go beyond ethnicity. Because what is killing the state, the Kenyan state, is corruption, ethnicity, and it's all around governance. It all revolves around governance. So I hope that the new crop of leaders, or the leaders that Kenyans will choose, because our leaders at the end of the day also reflect the kind of citizens they are there, because they don't just get into power, we vote them into power. So I hope that Kenyans this time will be very keen not to follow partisan politics, but to look at individuals, capable individuals, who is going to take this trade, who is going to be on the driver's seat. Because we need to forge ahead. We cannot continue to reminisce on the problems. We cannot continue to have the same speeches that Kenyatta, the first president, will be talking about. We want to, in the next 5 or 10 years, we want the president to look back and say, we were at a economic growth rate of 5%. We are at 15%. Our manufacturing rate was at 9.2 in 2016, but at 2025 we are at 15%. That kind of conversation is what we want to hear more.
All right, Dr. Monyani, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed. Always great talking to you. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you.